all, I'm Jamie Lynn Sigler, a mom, actor, and advocate. I know how overwhelming it can be trying to decide which treatment is right for you. I've been there. But you should know you're not alone. You can do this. Start with some research, talk to the community, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. You might find results that speak for themselves. That's how I landed on Kesimpta. Ask your doctor if Kesimpta, ofatumumab, could be right for you. You can check out the details at kesimpta.com.
It's a service industry type of model, but it's an asset. And I think we're trying to position these franchises today, and this is bigger picture, but we're trying to position them more like asset purchases, right? Like growth vehicles. They grow in value, they grow in cash flow, they provide a consistent cash flow growth as well.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach and your podcast host. Today, we have one of our franchise partners coming in to talk about their brand. This is a really true semi-absentee business model. It is non-brick and mortar. A lot of semi-absentee things are non-brick and mortar, low overhead, low staff, great technology platform, and tons of support from the franchisor for this. It's also a brand that is established, yet tons of white space all over the United States. So that's who we're going to talk to today. Before we get to them, a quick reminder, as always, of who we are. And FranCoach is the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal has nothing to do with selling anything. Our number one goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership to help you determine if you should own one. If so, we're going to help you find your absolute best fit. Remember, folks, there is not, the best fit out there or the top this franchise or the top that or industry. Don't chase the money. That's all hype. There's so much misleading things out there. We are trying to bring it to the basics of what is truly important, which is you, understanding you, figuring out what is your best franchise. Who knows? It might be the one we're going to talk to today. That's next. All right. Hey, we are back, everyone. And joining us today, super excited for our guest I have known basically since I've been in this crazy industry. Currently the vice president of franchise development for our featured brand today, which is Closed Bin. And joining us is Mr. Chris Brown. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, Tim, it's good to see you here.
Absolutely. No, thank you. And I would have won a bet with my wife that this is episode 250 some, that you are going to be the first guest ever to roll in here with a sport coat on. So always one of the best dressed people. And I at least put on a polo with the logo on it today, with some very mismatched shorts that nobody needs to see. So dapper as always. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
We got a bunch to talk about today. So buckle up. The way this goes, you're a first timer here. So we start simple and then I get into the hard hitting questions. We're going to get you in tears at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're really going to break it down. It's like old school Oprah.
Let's go.
Here. So, I want to talk obviously a lot about Closed Bin because it's a super cool concept. But as you well know, franchising is a people business. I love hearing stories. You've been in franchising a while. How did you get into this crazy world?
Like everyone else, it's sort of happenstance or, the opportunity presents itself. I was, believe it or not, I was an actor for about 18 years. I worked in New York, which took me to LA, which introduced me to a local brand there, Wolfgang Puck. I got to work with him for a while and taught me the power of brand. But it also taught me a lot about sweat and sweat equity. I come from food. A lot of what my background is food, and I understand it really well. And so my partnership with Wolf was really a strong one. I learned so much, but I was saying this earlier. We on November the 2nd, we had an operation that was running about between $2 and $3 million a year in annual revenue. And on November the 3rd, we had a $21 million a year operation. It blew up, and it was great. And it was a wonderful piece of business and wonderful experience for me. And I found myself I wasn't working 30 to 40 hours a week anymore. I was working like 90 to 100. And we just had a baby. We just got our house. And then I said, there's got to be a better way to build this thing. And so I started looking online, believe it or not. I think the internet was there back then. And I started surfing around and looking at businesses. And, I'm a weekend warrior, if you will. I'm a runner. I do a lot of stuff around that, races and stuff. And one of the things I did to supplement that was I'd get smoothies at this place that was there in LA. And so I went, I wonder. And I knew they franchised, but I really didn't know how to go about it. And so I wound up, connecting with someone, who's in the consultant world. And they helped me understand not only that brand, but a couple of others that I looked at. And then, what happened was I wound up dancing with the date I brought. I wound up going with that brand, and it was an area development rights to a market. And so it took us from LA back home to where we were on the East Coast. And I started doing that, and I found out that, part of my model was I had to sell franchise locations or franchises within that market. And I found out that I was much better at selling franchises than I was at making smoothies. And so I veered over to that part of the model, and I had some success, in spite of myself. I mean, I was an operations-based guy back in the food industry, that kind of thing. But then I just was able to connect with people. I think that was it, just the basics of the model. And then I decided at some point to sell that brand and start working with emerging brands to help them sort of do what that emerging brand, really couldn't do. It wasn't prepared to expand. It wasn't prepared to increase and grow the way that we were preparing it, or we were experiencing it too. We were selling it, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was the Jamba Wars, back when Jamba Juice had first started out. So anyway, so I started working with emerging brands, and, flash forward, I met you with one of those brands. We started with that brand. It was probably 75 locations. And when I exited, it was about 750. And we had a whole team of people like me that helped grow that brand. But I just really found, franchising to be not only the vehicle for me. I mean, I think I have a true north, a through line with the way I work in this industry and the way I work with people. And it's, I share what I would have loved to have known then before I got on the plane and moved all the way back to the East Coast and, abandoned my, LA life. And anyway, so I really loved the structure and the process and the vehicle that franchising had become. And I was able to communicate that. And so, that brand that I was talking about with where we met, but since then I've partnered with a number of different brands, different segments, not just food, which, led me here to Clothespin. And it's been a wonderful journey. I've known them. We've been franchising at Clothespin for almost 8 years. I've known them for about 6 of those 8 years in a consulting advisory way. And then actually on the development side, where I'm the developer for the past 2.5 years. And it's been, it's the sweet spot of our growth. And it's been a heck of a ride, and still is. Yeah.
And definitely want to get into Clothespin, but you talked a little bit. I think the goal, whether we accomplish this, of the podcast is always educating people on franchise, just the franchise industry and franchise ownership. But you talk about emerging brands, just like what does that mean a little bit? Just kind of from a simple definition, what are we looking at? Is like, well, are we 0, or does that mean 1,000? Does that mean what's kind of that range typically when we refer to that?
I think, from a big picture, I mean, I think it's somewhere between 0 and 100, but there are like 3 or 4 different personalities within that, that window, right? Yeah. So, at its infancy, when someone says, I've got a business model and hey, I think it's franchisable and I can replicate it and grow it with other people's money and things like that. So there's an opportunity to enter into a relationship with a brand at that stage of growth, help them with things like an FDD, federal disclosure documents, which is, that 200-page document. It takes a while and a lot of money to build that document out. And so we help or have helped people in that stage of growth. And then on the infrastructure side, it starts out usually with a small brand or a brand. It starts out with a leader, right? A person. And a lot of times there are probably 5 or 6 roles in there that leader is doing all of. Yeah. And maybe they have an assistant, maybe they have a spouse, maybe they have a cousin or someone that's working with them. But, usually somewhere along the lines, they get 1, 2, 3 locations. It's usually someone that's come into that location, if it is a bricks and mortar, or used the service, if it is a service brand. Right. And then they go, hey, do you franchise? Or, hey, I'd like to do one of these things. Yeah. And then they start themselves, that hub and spoke method, right? Where they sort of grow out from the center. And so that's usually takes a brand somewhere between 5 and 10 locations. And then, at that stage, they start focusing on a strategic plan of growth and development. And there's so much that goes into that too, in terms of like, where do we want to grow first, and what leap forward do we want to take? And so you want to work with someone, or typically a brand would want to work with someone who's been in the industry, who knows a little bit more about that. And in my case, I've been franchising for almost 23 years now, and it's, I've seen brands that have gone about it their own way, and I've seen brands that have engaged with, bringing an employee in house and working with them, with that person, or bringing an organization in, whether it's what we call it traditionally today, like an FSO, or just a development organization or something like that. And then they typically will grow, up to a certain stage with that system, and then graduate into different levels of involvement, whether it's an in-house development team or a C-level, C-suite, CDO, that kind of thing. Right. And so what we have at Clothespin, when I still would say, maybe we're an emerging brand. We're right on the cusp of being an emerging brand. We're about to open our 100th territory like next month, kind of thing. And so that's a really strategic and monumental stage of growth for a brand.
It is.
And so
it's not easy to
that's sort of that window. It's
not easy to get there. And then I always appreciate brands that have gotten there slowly. And dare we say in this industry responsibly, versus some of the groups that come in and really try to take a very fast lane through development, regardless of what's going to happen. So I really appreciate the growth trajectory Clothespin has been on, and it's like that emerging thing is like you're at 0, you're a newborn baby, and then by the time you get to 100 units, you're like, hey, we're 21 and we've graduated college and we can go drink, right? And so you kind of get there in all of those little stages along the way. So cool. So tell us a little bit about Clothespin, and first of all, what the heck is it? And then we'll get into kind of the owner and the all of the support structures. Just what is Clothespin?
Yeah, so we're a green company. I think first and foremost, it's something that we lean into. We're in the green industry. We place bins in market areas. Franchisees do that, but essentially the model places bins in a market area. People donate clothes into those bins, and then the franchisee collects those clothes, and then we partner that franchisee with a third-party buyer. It's a wholesale buyer. They come in and they buy those clothes from the franchisee. There are some moving parts within that. I just shortened it to 10 seconds there. But, they're purchasing an asset. They're purchasing the bins. So they have a tangible asset. And then we help them find locations for those bins. Most of the time we partner with schools, which is really cool. It's a great way. And we're already a green company, so we're a little bit on the feel-good side anyway. But when we partner with the school, we're providing them. We say, in exchange for permission to place the bin on your territory, on your path, your drop-off pickup line, we'll give you a percentage of whatever we make. And it's like no strings attached. All you need to do is just give us permission. We'll keep it clean. We'll keep it, emptied, and we'll pay you. and we'll pay you on time, that kind of thing. So it's literally, that's the development of the relationship with the school. If it's not at a school, and we do place bins in other places also, it's going to be like a gas station, a convenience store, something like that. And that's really the blueprint for us, or a retail establishment. You think like Whole Foods or Costco or Walmart or a big box store, something like that. And so the ease of operation, the simplicity of the operation, the relatively low barrier to entry too. It's really, all they're doing is buying bins and paying a fee, an initial franchise fee. We help them find the location for the bins. We bring the bins to them. And here's the quality of life component here. Inside each of the bins, there's a device, and that device communicates with an app. And that app's either on the franchisee's phone or it's on their computer. And so, everyone starts in our system with 20 bins. So 20 bins get placed into their market. And with 20 bins in their market, they're monitoring those bins to make sure, first and foremost, that people are actually donating clothes into them, right? Right. The other thing is that there's a device. That device is a homing device too. So if someone were to pick that bin up and walk away with it, we'd know where it was, which they don't usually do, but and so there's that. But there's also another couple of components to this. So they have one person on their team that they recruit, they hire, they train, and that one person gets into a box truck at the beginning of that day, and they go around and they collect the clothes from those bins. But number one, they need to know when the bins are full and which bins to service. But also that owner, that franchise owner, needs to know, hey, I'm putting this person that I'm paying by the hour in a truck so that they can go out into the community and do whatever they will, to collect the clothes. So we want that, there's a saying, that saying, trust but verify. So the app gives the franchisee the ability to track that person too. It's also a device that they clock in, they clock out, the mapping software program too. Anyway, too. So there's that technology piece that helps the franchisee make it to their kid's ball game, invest in another business. We have 94, 95 franchisees, all but 2 have other businesses or other jobs. Right. So it's that kind of lifestyle that this brand, facilitates. And if you go back to just the basis of what this is, and we've all seen them somewhere in some parking lot where, I can go donate clothes, stuff, whatever. And I think most things in the franchising world, there's the mom and pop version of, Billy Bob and his beat up pickup truck that's going to come to your house to whatever, or the franchise version that's rolling in a good looking wrapped vehicle, uniformed people, they're utilizing technology. All the same thing, right? And there are a couple of these in my little crap ass town in the middle of Arizona that I live in. And they're nice, they're green, they're noticeable. In fact, my kid couldn't figure out why one day we're driving down the road and I'm like, well, it's clothes bin. He's like, Dad, who cares? I'm like, no, you like it's a franchise versus, the one that's over here at the Walmart that looks like, or there's stuff all over the place, right? If you're looking at this as you're making money off the stuff that's being donated, if people can't donate it because nobody's bothered to check it, having that technology, so you can clean that out. Now it's open, easy for people to put things in there. Cause again, just that consumer facing thing of like, well, that one's in a bad place or it's always full. I don't want to just leave this is good enough stuff to donate and not just throw away. I want it to actually be used somewhere, and it just laying on the ground outside of one of these bins is not the safest place to, or best place to leave things that you're truly trying to get rid of and do something good with. So that technology piece is huge. And then you talk about the lifestyle thing as if we asked 10 franchisors their definition of semi-absentee, we'd get 50 different answers, right? And there's things that are like, we can be. This really is, I don't want to say passive, but pretty hands off for an owner, right? Kind of walk through some of the things that they really need to, definitely not a full-time gig, but what are some of the things that owners really need to be paying attention to? Well, I mean, and you just covered everything in terms of, maybe solutions to objections or anything related to But I've seen this bin. Yeah, but I've seen this, this location. We, so we equip the franchisee with so many different parts of the model. Probably one of the most significant ones is helping them find a location for the bin, placing the bin. It starts there. Their main reason for monitoring that bin and monitoring the pace at which it fills up and how much comes out of it in terms of product is for that reason alone, because time is essential, in terms of everything from return on investment to just building momentum and traction so that people know where it is. We don't place the bin in the back by the dumpster because it becomes a dumpster.
Right.
The other thing is we don't put it in the dark corner anywhere too. It has to be safe, has to be right out there in front. That's why we put it on the path of that pickup drop off line. That's why we put it right there by the gas pump, or, in the case of a retail center, right there in the middle of all the action. And so if it's there and it's not filling up still, well, that's the franchisee's responsibility to really communicate with us. We have a really strong coaching environment. We give a lot of feedback, especially on the front end of this thing, the first, 6 to 12 months, where we're right there in their ear. We have quarterly financial reviews. We really treat this like their own sort of, school of, getting to understand, number one, what their main role is, because to your point, it is semi-absentee. And I think the semi-absentee part of this does not mean it becomes absentee. They really are going to have to maintain, a keen understanding of where those bins are and what they're doing. That's the main thing in essence. The other part of it in terms of the, just the product itself, the most important part of that is the assurance that we give the franchisee by saying, okay, look, when this product is collected, there's a buyer for it. We are in a green industry. There is so much demand for this product right now. Clothes, it's and shoes and we get some bedding in there on occasion too. And we take that, the others that you're talking about, those dented bins, the ones that, the Goodwills and Salvation Armies of the world. And I don't mean that as a disparaging thing. All of those mom and pops, all those little, dinged bins, they make up about 15% of the segment. That's it. And so the other 85% that could be collected, most of that gets thrown away. And so when we place bins out there, we treat it more like an opportunity, a PR opportunity to inject or infuse, information about, hey, you see those green bins, to your son's point, see those green bins? This is what we do. This is what we do with the product. This is what we, we're a green company, and so we generate this buzz and people start, drawing themselves to that. It becomes a pattern behavior. Yeah. That's it. We're in the path of pattern behavior. We become a part of that pattern.
So when the owners, and they've got a person that's going out and collecting all of the stuff in the bins, right? And you're talking about starting with a minimum of 20. So you pull all that information out, or all of the stuff out. Walk us through then kind of what happens, because this is where the franchise owners are really making their money, is now the stuff has been donated and now you are looking to essentially resell this. Most people probably don't know this is something that goes on, or how does that work, and how do you know who to sell it to?
So our founder of our company has been in the industry for 35 plus years. He started out with about 930 bins in the southeast part of the country. He had 9 thrift stores, big 15,000 square foot plus thrift stores that he had down there. That the product that was collected from those bins went on the shelves there. So he had to sort and clean and hang and price and do all the things that go into that. His team was, 10, 15 plus people doing all that per store. And so he, about 8 years ago, met Nick Boriu, the other founder of the franchise part of this. He and Mark Douglas, who's this founder, had came together and said, "Hey, what can we do? How can we franchise this?" Right. And Nick, he's a guy like me, us, who's been in the industry for a while, and they decided to eliminate the retail part of the model and take the store component out of it, take the selling part of it out, and keep the bins, keep the collection, but then partner them with a third party. It's basically in a sea of wholesale buyers in this country, 500, 600 plus. We vetted about 50 or 60 of those to be strategically sort of in proximity to all of our franchisees. We're in about 33 different states now. So that number, that 50 or 60 number is continuing to grow. Started out at like 30 and now it's up to what it is. And so what we've done is we've connected the franchisee with a partner, a buying partner that they would never be able to approach off the street.
Right.
These are so,
or even know exists, right? I mean, this has got to be so far beyond most people's understanding that there's even this whole world that they don't know about, right?
Exactly. And so what happens is the clothes get collected from the bins. They go into this box truck. The box truck fills up. After about 10 of those bins are serviced, that box truck is full. It's got about 6,000 or 7,000 pounds of clothes in it. That truck gets then driven over to a stationary trailer. That trailer is like the back half of an 18-wheeler rig. It's like a 56-foot trailer. That's their storage container. That's the franchisee's storage container. It's parked at like a boat or an RV storage lot, someplace where there's an oversized parking space. And then so that franchisee, the employee of that franchisee, which is, by the way, usually like a FedEx or a UPS driver who's looking for an extra shift. Right?
Okay.
So they, out of a sea of talent, 30, 40 people are interviewed for that job, and the ones that get it are usually FedEx, UPS driver. And so they drive that truck over to the trailer, transfer the clothes into that trailer, and then they return the truck. Well, in the beginning with 20 bins, they rent the truck. They rent that little box truck from Penske. We have a national account with them, and so they get preferred pricing. And so when that trailer, back to the trailer, when that trailer fills up, and that, it'll hold about 40,000 pounds of clothes. So it takes a little while for it to fill up. 6, 7, 8 weeks of collecting clothes from the bin or the bins. And then when it does, that's when they contact us. And then we signal that third party buyer. They come over and they haul that trailer away, and then they empty it, weigh it, pay the franchisee, and then they bring that trailer back. And that's the process, end to end. So
got it. So you got almost like big chunks of revenue as a franchise owner coming in every maybe 6 to 8 weeks from that, right? But there's not like when you start out, you're getting the bins, right? And what else? You mentioned kind of renting the box truck. So you've got that, right? What else are you really looking at when you're thinking of like a franchise that needs a lot of moving parts or staff or stuff? You get the bins, the franchisor is helping find the locations for those. You're using the technology to monitor everything. Then you got your person going around in the box truck, picking everything up, filling up the trailer. Like, it's kind of almost like, does it throw people off? Like, wait, what's the catch? This is really seems really simple. From a standpoint of, there's not big staff, there's not big overhead. You're utilizing the technology for the efficiencies. Like, I got to imagine as you're explaining this to candidates all the time, they're like, yeah, but Chris, what's the catch, man? What am I missing here? Really not much of anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get in these rare conversations, but we'll get in these conversations with people, and sometimes they'll say, okay, so how much are they spending on gas, and what's the labor and how much you paying them? And then, what is just little small parts of the model that, they want to find out what that catch is. And there really isn't. It is super simple. It's, the two parts of this that make it like a franchise are really the technology and the buying partner, right? Like the other parts of it, they could figure out how to get a bin. It probably wouldn't have the same quality that we have, where we make our own, we've engineered our own product there. And, but as far as like the simplicity of the operation, it really is that simple. You've got labor, you've got the gas, you've got the truck rental, you have the cost of the bins themselves, that gets amortized. That's not a P&L item, but and then you've got we've got a royalty and we've got a tech charge, a tech fee for the connecting that device,
right?
And then our royalty, and those are they're literally only the only sort of fees that are associated with that. The cool thing about our process is that we get to walk them through all of that when we're in the discovery process with the candidate.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because it's always that like there's always that thought of like, oh well, I think whatever the franchise, I could just do that myself. Well, you can, right? You got to get the bins. There's no way in the world you're going to figure out the technology. Where are you going to put it? How are you going to convince them? How do you know what's fair to be able to do that? And then it's like the technology and the buying power, I think, are the two biggest things in franchising in general that you are getting that you just can't match on your own with this, right? And then you think of, it drives me crazy, and probably you too sometimes when you hear like, I want something recession, like I can't even say the word proof, but like recession resist, like this is never going away. We're all going to have things that we have outgrown, outwant, right? Whatever that might be. So there's always going to be a market for this, being able to have the technology and then the know-how of like getting these in the best. I mean, again, these are really green bins where I am in Arizona, it's literally like, it's the highway, but it's the main town through. It's like, boom, right there. You can't miss it. And again, then it's just once people realize, it's clean, it's safe, it's easy to get to. I'm not throwing the crap on the ground all around it where you'll see those things. Just it's kind of creating that behavior locally and have the technology to make sure it all works. Right. So, okay. I was trying to think of like, for what's the, like, cause we'll get people that are like, what's the catch, or trying to understand what those objections are going to be before. How do you find the location? Yeah, we got it. How do I know when it's full? Yeah, we got that too. That's the technology. How do we know what to do with it afterwards? Yeah, we got that figured out, right? You just as an owner have to, again, pay it, like with anything, you got to pay attention to, if the technology is telling you it needs to be full, then go clean out the bin and put it in the trailer. And when the trailer's full, tell your buyers to come get it so they can give you money.
Yeah. And, and we are green for a reason, right? We do stand out in the desert, especially in the desert, the big bright green. So there's a reason why we want to be, this big bright green bin. Not only because we're in the green industry too, but we do some good. We do some good with the schools. We do some good with the community. There are things that we can do for like fall festivals and bring in 4 or 5 bins, put them in the middle of it. And then the price of admission is a bag of clothes. And then we give the proceeds back to the school. And so it's, it's really, really neat things that we can do like that. And so, you mentioned something early on about growth and about speed. And so, our brand has been exactly that kind of brand that you're talking about. Yeah. It's been very deliberate. It's been it's been gradual, but it's been steady. Yeah. And it's been progressive, so we have grown and increased, deliberately. I love that. It's kind of been my mission, my through line too in my development journey. That's an important thing. And because of that, we invest as much in the discovery process and finding out who they are as they do with us. Yeah. So yes, all these things that we're saying about the model and about the efficiency and the simplicity and everything, but what's really important is, we want to put this in the right hands. We want to make sure it's in the right hands, but we also want to make sure that, they're not putting, all their chips on the table, so to speak, know?
Yeah.
And so for that reason, we're looking we're looking for the kinds of people that really have sort of a bigger, broader growth picture in mind. Now it starts out simple with 20 bins, but they have a territory that'll hold, 60 to 80 bins. So we give them a lot of room to grow. And that's what we want them to, have that in mind, sort of begin with the end in mind, and to have that in their game plan when they come to us.
Yeah. Good. Which is again, also helping the owners not overselling them just because you can, being smart, being responsible with that on both ends is key. And then you guys are right at that 100, territory mark, which is fantastic. But that also means we've got tons of white space all over the country for this. How's just like asking for a friend here? How's the Tampa market, by the way? We have any availability there?
You know what? We actually have, we're based out of Florida. We're based in Fort Lauderdale. And that's, talk about that hub and spoke market that we grew from. We're actually almost sold out in Florida. We have maybe Tallahassee and maybe Pensacola, but Tampa, there should be bins right in the, theoretically, whoever that person is you're talking about, it should be. Okay,
I thought I had a buyer for you right there, but sorry. We'll be donators for that. So and thank you for all of this. This has been fantastic information. I want to fire one last little question at you. Just what's maybe missing about Clothesbin and this opportunity that we haven't talked about that you really want people to know?
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Hey all, I'm Jamie Lynn Sigler, a mom, actor, and advocate. I know how overwhelming it can be trying to decide which treatment is right for you. I've been there. But you should know you're not alone. You can do this. Start with some research, talk to the community, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. You might find results that speak for themselves. That's how I landed on Kesimpta. Ask your doctor if Kesimpta, ofatumumab, could be right for you. You can check out the details at kesimpta.com.
Among maybe several of those parts, I'd say one is, it's a service industry type of model, but it's an asset, and I think we're trying to position these franchises today, and this is, bigger picture, but we're trying to position them more like asset purchases, right? Like growth vehicles. They grow in value, they grow in cash flow, they provide a consistent cash flow growth as well. So, Clothesbin has, there's an asset, a bin that they purchase. It's not like kitchen equipment. It's not going to depreciate. It's not 10 cents on the dollar the moment you purchase it. It holds its value. It's a little bit of a cottage kind of industry kind of thing in the sense that they trade and sell amongst themselves within the industry, within our franchise family. So, it's something that has a lot more security than you think. It's not, you're not investing in ether or just the air that we're breathing here. So that's probably one of the most significant parts of this, is that it is tangible and it is real. Yeah. And it is something that it's very attainable for the every person. I think it's not something that, it's something that you or I walking in, off the street could step into.
Yeah. It's, and totally stealing this from my better half, and she probably stole it somewhere. She's not saying it, but like franchising, well, I always say it's so much more attainable than people realize, but a lot of it is, it's an everyday business for an everyday person. Right. And it really is. And so, this is, again, just fantastic stuff. So I love all of this, and always good talking to you, my friend, and excited to continue to see the growth. Man, I thought I had a lead for you, but Tampa's all sold out. But cool. We'll again, and we gotta find a reason to get you back on here again. So we'll make up some excuse to talk about franchising. And do this again really soon. But Chris, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about Clothesbin.
Thanks, Tim. My pleasure. Great to be here.
Thanks again to our good friend Chris Brown with Clothesbin for joining us today. What a fantastic, true semi-absentee model Clothesbin is. And I'd like to thank to you, all of our loyal listeners to the Franchising 101 podcast. I hope this continues to provide insight into the amazing possibilities that can be out there in franchising. If you haven't yet, please do me a little favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast or watch the podcast, like, subscribe, follow, all of those fun things. Please do that on the podcast platforms. Don't forget about our YouTube channel. podcast is there. Tons of other stuff. Our Franchising 360 show is there as well, which that airs live every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. We got renewed for season 2, folks. Can you freaking believe it? So that's awesome. When you are ready to learn more about franchise ownership and really have that one-on-one conversation with somebody on our team, FranCoach.net. Again, Franchising 101 podcast is the FranCoach team. Reach out to us. There is never any fee for our service. We're here to educate you and figure out what is your best franchise to own. So reach out today so we can help you create your better tomorrow. Until next week, we'll see you then.